Off-season debate is the true lifeblood of college football, and EA Sports has just absolutely nailed that part. Hey, if it's in the game, it's in the game. Welcome back to the podcast daily. It is Thursday. It's a three-man booth for the first time in a long time. That's Bill Landis and Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward, and we've got some fresh EA Sports college football rankings to dive into. 8 Buckeyes, Bill, are over a 90 or above, according to these updated, very accurate, scientific. I don't know how they come up with them rankings. Is that it's a lot? Most teams would want that. Is it the right amount? Too many? Not enough? What do we got?
There's one surprise for me. That's not that one surprise omission, and that is JT Tuimoloau is not a 90 or above. He's there were I was looking through. They actually did a really nice job with this release. Like you can sort it by position, by like conference. You can group a bunch of different positions together if you want to. So there are 10 defensive ends in the game rated 90 or better, and JT Tuimoloau is not one of them, which, like, if you want to look at his stats, you probably can say, like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But, like, Jack Sawyer is, and Jack Sawyer's stats are better, but they're not, like, significantly better than JT's. And JT obviously has the recruiting pedigree and a couple of games under his belt that I thought really captured the national attention. So that was the one surprise to me, I think, is to not see his name listed among the Buckeyes that did achieve a 90 or better rating.
Can I ask for a point of clarity that we may not have?
Sure.
The rankings that were released on Wednesday are the top 100 rankings. Is it guaranteed that everyone under top 100 is not a 90, or is there a possibility that JT Tuimoloau is a 90, but he's like 112? Because I look at these rankings, and Ohio State has the most players of anyone in the top 100 with 8. Georgia is second with 6. I think there's another team with 6 that I can't recall who they are, but there's a possibility at least that Tuimoloau is a 90 and just not in the top 100. So right? Like there's at least that.
Well, what are they? They would just put them on the list, wouldn't they?
I don't think so, because today's release
to have guys who weren't 90s who are 90s.
Today's release was the top 100. So
yeah,
did it?
You could you had to. I think you had to be a 90 or above to be in the top 100.
Maybe, or it just worked out that way. Like we don't know for sure, but
we'll find out next week when we get the release of the game.
But here's the argument, and I think that, and maybe
we know he's not at 91. Berm, does that help if
we know
pop it up to a 91?
Yes, we know he's not a 91 because that's where Tyleik Williams and Denzel Burke and Donovan Jackson are, and they are on the list in the top 100. So is it recency bias because Jack Sawyer finished last season on such a high note and JT Tuimoloau kind of faded towards the end of the year? Is it an accurate assessment of JT and where he is in his career? Because, I mean, he has less than 8 sacks in 3 years of college football, right? Like he's not been necessarily the most productive defense. He's been a great player against the run for Ohio State and really good at his job. But as far as national accolades and statistical output, I mean, I don't think you can argue that he's maybe below those other guys. I think it's just like he was the number 1 player in the country in the class of 2021 and not particularly lived up to that statistically.
I think that's probably difficult to feed into the algorithm. If like everyone tells you, your eyeballs tell you that JT Tuimoloau is a very important piece to Ohio State's defense. We made this point in the middle of last season, like, well, sacks aren't the only way that you can measure his impact. And he's got, 2.5 times as many tackles for loss as sacks. I think it's 18 tackles for loss and 7 sacks at this point in his career. Like even still, those numbers don't like immediately leap off the page. And if that's the only like statistics as the main way that you're going to be comparing people across 130 different rosters and across college football, like that's what they're for. JT doesn't have those. And I think that we all 3 of us have a healthy appreciation for what he can do. I think NFL scouts do as well. I guess I'm curious to see what the numbers actually spit out for where he is on an overall rating, but I don't know that when you look at just the raw data points that like JT has that strong of a case to be in the top 100.
He's probably an 89. Like we're having this long discussion. He's going to be 1 point below the threshold needed to get in the top 100. No, I don't think it's unfair. It's just like if you think of it as here is a list of the best 100 players in college football, and there's 8 Ohio State players, and JT is not one of them. Like it catches you off guard a little bit, I think, but I don't think it's unreasonable. And like had they had it flipped and had JT in and Jack out, like I don't know that I'd be, all that upset about that either. I think both guys probably have not quite been what people expected them to be based off recruiting pedigree, but Jack Sawyer like definitely started to flash that ceiling at the end of last season. And JT has done it too in individual games, certainly, but maybe Jack probably did it for more of a prolonged stretch kind of in the second half of last year. So if you're banking on that and using that to project forward into 2024, I think that's probably right. I would do the same thing. Like I think they're both awesome. If I had to pick one, I would be a little higher on Jack at the moment than I am JT.
Fair. I think Jack, unless I'm mistaken, I believe Jack has had more sacks than JT in all 3 seasons that they've been on the Ohio State roster. So
yeah, you're
even
right. Yep.
Even taking just like the way that he finished last year, but the entirety of their career, that seems like that's probably the right course of action. Like to your point, Bill, it doesn't mean that JT is suddenly no longer valuable or completely meaningless to Ohio State because he might be an 89 as opposed to a 91. But it's the same thing when it comes to like next year's mock drafts and getting out ahead of things. Like he's right now, JT Tuimoloau, a little bit hard to pin down because a lot of his value comes from things that don't show up directly for him on the stat sheet, which again, if you're making a video game, is what you kind of have to use to build it.
Yeah, I don't think run defense, like PFF run defense grade is not something they probably use to make these ratings.
I think if we projected who gets drafted higher next year, I think most of us would still agree that JT will end up being drafted higher than Jack, or I would think that anyway, just out of sheer athletic profile. But again, a lot of those things don't get accounted for when it comes to these rankings. But if EA Sports says it, then it must be true, and that's how we all have to now adhere to this from here on moving forward. JT Tuimoloau is no longer important.
We didn't do that when we talked about the loudest, most raucous home environments, though, Berm.
Yeah, because that was stupid. That was stupid. This is not stupid. This is scientifically based.
Do you know what's not going to help the narrative that's driving me insane? Is that Ohio State's 2 highest rated players came from the transfer portal.
I think they should be, though, right? I don't know. Caleb Downs, I think, definitely should be Ohio State's highest rated player. I don't know. Maybe Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson could be similarly rated. There's two points in between them, I think. But yeah, it is kind of interesting that Ohio State's top 2 players weren't here last year.
But if you're judging based on their careers to this point, I don't think it's outside of the boundary to suggest that Quinshon Judkins' career has been better than Travion Henderson's. Yeah, sure. And again, Travion's got a 93. I'm sure the majority of his attributes are based on speed and quickness and agility, that sort of stuff, where Quinshon's going to have a much higher durability rating and be less likely to be injured. So those things matter. But what does matter is that this is clear SEC bias from EA Sports, and that's clear. It's clear.
Yeah. Here are the full numbers, by the way. Kind of buried them in the conversation. We have 8 Ohio State players in that top 100. Caleb Downs is a 95. Quinshon Judkins is also a 95. Emeka Egbuka and Travion Henderson are both 93s. Jack Sawyer checked in with a 92. And then a trio of 91s. Donovan Jackson, Denzel Burke, and Tyleik Williams. When we talked about the surprise JT Tuimoloau not being on there, I don't know that I was blown away by it as much as the continued excitement around Donovan Jackson, which another player that I think is very good, but did I expect to see him as a 91 for Ohio State? I don't know that I did.
He's the 3rd highest rated guard in the game and the 5th highest rated interior offensive lineman. And that does sort of fall in line with, I think, what you're saying, Austin. That's not merely like the video game. I think there are some All-American projections out there that mention Donovan Jackson's name in the preseason and some mock drafts where you'll see Donovan Jackson's name in the first round. And granted, a lot of that stuff still kind of falls back on recruiting pedigree, and Donovan was a very good recruit, but he's had flashes of being that kind of player for sure, but in my mind, he's not quite put it all together yet. I don't know. I wouldn't put that all on him. I think some of that is environment, just not a whole lot of stability kind of on either side of him. And I do think that matters for an offensive lineman, but to see him kind of regarded as being in the conversation for best guard in the sport, given how his career has transpired thus far, feels like a little, like slightly off base. Not to say that he can't get there, I guess, by the end of the year, because he is an incredible athlete and like I think cares a lot and wants to improve. So certainly stands a chance to do so. But I don't know that I would say he was there just yet.
Yeah, I don't know enough about every guard in the country to suggest that it's way off base, but most of the guys who are in the conversation where he's being discussed would have left after their third season. And so a lot of those guys are not returning as seniors. So I think he probably has like as good a chance to be that third best guard as anyone in the country this year, but he hasn't proved it yet. And so that's where I think it gets a little wonky. Whereas, you look at everyone else in that group, they've done pretty much, it's been proven on the field. And I don't think Donovan has done that. And even Denzel Burke at 91, I think is probably a little bit low. But he's probably, Will Johnson from Michigan is the number 1 ranked player in the game at a 96 overall, so 1 point ahead of Caleb Downs. But that's, I think, the combination of other factors: the height, the length, the speed, like productivity is one.
The fact that Michigan has multiple people on the development team.
Yeah, well, that doesn't hurt, but I mean, the Donovan Edwards love that this game is giving is crazy. It's crazy, but whatever. Yeah. So here's the biggest question: we obviously don't know where JT Tuimoloau ends up. We expect in the 88 or 89 range. Where does Will Howard end up?
It's a good question.
83, 84?
I was going to say like 84, maybe. Yeah. I guess the quarter. I did write down the names. I don't write down their ratings, but I think the highest rated quarterback is a 93. It's Carson Beck and Shedeur Sanders. Dylan Gabriel, Quinn Ewers, I think were 92s. Jalen Milroe, Jaden Daniels, Jackson Dart, and Caden Salter were the other quarterbacks that were on the top 100.
Jalen Daniels, not Jaden Daniels, right? Did you say Jalen or Jaden?
I think I said Jaden, but you are right. It is Jalen. Yeah, from Kansas. Yeah. So I don't know. Like Will Howard being behind those guys, I think makes sense. But where he'll land, I think probably low 80s, maybe 83, 84. Yeah.
Bill, I'm going to pick your brain here because you just did an interview with an Oregon beat writer for Kings of Columbus.
Yeah.
Is the conversation around Dylan Gabriel wrong? Like, are people failing to realize that the reason he left Oklahoma is because Jackson Arnold is going to be their starting quarterback? And it's like, he did really well last year at Oklahoma, obviously, but it was sort of okay, thanks, now leave. Like, I mean, why is he getting the love he gets when Will Howard is being ripped apart for the same reason at Kansas State?
Because Dylan Gabriel's been far more productive, and part of that's the environment, right? Like the offenses he played in at Central Florida and Oklahoma just lends themselves to more productivity. Like when it comes to draft conversation, I think people would favor Will Howard over Dylan Gabriel because Dylan Gabriel is small and left-handed. But as far as college quarterbacks go, like I don't think it's unreasonable to think that a guy who's been incredibly productive, who I believe is the most experienced quarterback in college football, who will break Bo Nix's record for most starts by a college quarterback this year, and will be in an offense that is just kind of designed to put up a bunch of yards and points, will be among the best producers in the sport. I think that's right. This just depends on the type of conversation you want to have. Like if it's pure stat driven in college, like I think Dylan Gabriel should be pretty high. If it's like who is actually the best prospect long term, I don't know that Dylan Gabriel is much a part of that conversation.
I wonder, Berm, if like EA Sports is just going to settle the quarterback situation for Ohio State. Like you asked where Will Howard is. How much difference or gap would they see between Devin Brown and Will Howard?
Yeah, I wish we saw the full rosters today because I would like to actually have that conversation. But I would, if I'm guessing, I'm going to say Will Howard is an 83 and that Devin Brown will be like a 79. That's how I see it. But I don't know what they'll base that on other than the experience that Will Howard's already had. And maybe like his athleticism or agility or speed. So because we have really no idea about Devin Brown as a passer, like he may not even be that high. That's the hard part.
Yeah, there's way more to go off of Will Howard, which is like why we've had a lot of this conversation about what's going to ultimately maybe make the difference here. It's experience and physical maturity. Like that's, I think, why we believe that there's not as much competition necessarily in August, which is not a slight on Devin Brown in any way, shape, or form, because he had his best spring. But I don't think that EA Sports is like, ooh, you know what? Those 5 open practices that the media saw and that they talked about on the podcast daily were way better. Let's bump Devin Brown up. I don't think they're going to do that. They should, because we've talked a lot about their video game over the last month or 2 months, but I doubt that they do that.
Are there any Ohio State people on the developmental team at EA College Football, or are they all Michigan grads?
No, they're all Michigan grads.
Okay.
They're somehow infiltrated that company.
America, I need you to write this down moving forward. So we're going to have a little game here to figure out we're going to see who's closest on the rest of the Ohio State projected starting 22. Can we do that?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's do it.
Okay. So Austin, you've heard I say 83 for Will Howard. Bill says 84. What do you think?
I think Will Howard will be an 80. Do I?
You can pick the same number.
Different?
No, you can.
I think he's going to be I think he's going to be an 83, and the running stuff and the physicality helps him. And I don't know what they're going to do with the accuracy, because they have a lot to go on for that. It's like the passing stuff is probably not going to be great, so it'll balance out in the middle there with 83. A lot of awareness, like that's how they will do it for veteran college football players, right? Like,
yeah, that's what they're saying. The awareness factor is going to be a major part in the players' ratings.
So I think 83 is probably the sweet spot for Will Howard.
Okay, so we know the projected 2 at running back, 95 for Quinshon, 93 for Travion. We know 93 for Emeka. Carnell Tate.
81. No, 86. Yeah. 86.
See, if they're using recruiting rankings and like the way Ohio State coaches talk about him, or Marvin Harrison talked about him, then you're talking about like 87, 88. But if you're putting in actual numbers and game productivity at this point, which again, I think they have to do more than anything else, then you're talking more about like 78.
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to have that big of a gap between Emeka and Carnell because of the next part of the conversation. So I'm going to say 84 also for Carnell. Jeremiah Smith.
I'll say 80.
Kudos to them for not immediately putting him in the top 100.
Yeah.
They've tapped the brakes on the hype way better than any of us have.
He's a 95 in my heart and an 80 in my head.
Yeah.
Right now.
Based on what I saw in spring ball, he's a 90 plus already, but I don't think that they're going to do that. I think they'll make him an 82. I do think that they will buy into the hype and have him ahead of Carnell Tate. That will be my hottish take on that.
I'll have him as an 83, so 1 point behind Carnell, but I do think he will be the highest ranked freshman in the game.
Okay.
Okay. And then we'll throw one more receiver in there just for posterity's sake. Can we agree it's probably Brandon Innes, or do we want to go with Jaden Ballard?
It'll be Brandon Innes.
77.
Ooh, that's good. 78.
76 with a speed of 97.
$1, nice. Bob.
Okay. Tight end, G. Scott. Or
we're doing the entire roster, Berm? Come on.
Yeah. Tight end. We're still the rest of the starting 22.
Oh,
tight end. We'll go G. Scott. I'm going to say an 81. America's writing this down. We don't need to keep track. America's doing it for us. 81 for G. Scott.
I'm going to say like 75 for G. Scott.
Yeah, I think he's going to be 79.
Interesting. Okay. Let's just do the tackles. Fryer and Simmons. I'm going to go 82 for Fryer and 84 for Simmons. Even though I know the consensus nationally is that Fryer will be ranked ahead of him.
There is a lot of Josh Simmons love out there that I was unaware of until like 2 days ago, but there's some draft folks quite excited about Josh Simmons. Josh Simmons will be an 85 and Josh Fryer will be an 82.
I think they're both going to be 85s.
Okay.
Which would be pretty good if you're Ohio State, having 285 tackles and a 91 in Donovan Jackson. We're going to assume that we have the center, whose name has just completely
Seth McLaughlin.
Wow, just totally lost my 83 is what he's going to be.
I'll say 81.
I think he's going to be an 86.
Ooh.
Oh, nice.
Austin's buying into the Seth McLaughlin hype.
Well, he's played a ton of games. And Berm, you got to remember, there's also a demonstrative SEC bias in this game.
I've heard that.
Great point.
Where did those snaps come from? So
that's true.
He must be pretty good.
We need to agree on a starting right tackle or right guard. So, and then pick that player's ranking. So I'm going to say Tegra Shabola is the guy that I'm just going to pick him. But you guys, if you can talk me out of it, but I think it's going to be Tegra. As of today, I would put Tegra Shabola just because I'm wanting to cause controversy.
What controversy? I'm pretty sure that the podcast daily has been pretty clear that we are in the camp that Tegra Shabola needs to start at right guard. Am I mistaken in that? I thought we were all on board.
I've had a tent there for a long time. Yeah, I'm in.
So then the number 74. They're going to give him it's going to be a significant drop from that position to the rest of the offensive line.
Yeah, I'll go jersey number 77. Right, that's what I'm going to go with that.
Okay,
I'm closer to Byrne because he hasn't played enough maybe for EA Sports to project him that highly. I bet they probably don't even. There has to be some starting 22 that they put in the game, right? And I bet that Tegra is not who they have at right guard. So 73 probably.
Okay. So JT, we all think 89 or 88?
I think 89.
89 is where I'm at.
89.
Ty Hamilton, 82.
Ooh, that's a good number. I'm going to also say 82.
I think he's an 84. You look at the numbers and the PFF stuff, that favors him way more than just like raw eye test. I remember making that point a lot last season because he was showing up in so many big spots. I think this might work in his favor better than some other players.
Yeah, I think the crazy thing is for people who've never seen Ty Hamilton, they think he can't pass the eye test, but like the dude passes the eye test in a major way. He's scary looking and he's huge. And his brother's scary looking and huge. So like, and he's productive. He should be like an 85 or 86, but I think he's going to be like an 82. Cody Simon.
80.
I like 80. I'm going with 80 also.
81.
Oh, wow.
Because we know Ohio State has the highest ranked defense in the game. We've seen that before. They were at 95 overall in defense. So that should a little bit flavor the predictions, but
okay, 85.
No, that's
I'm not going to be one of those. I'm not going to be one of those people shortchanging Cody Simon.
I still like 80. Now, the interesting one here is the unicorn Sonny Styles, who we assume will be the starting Sam, right? So the starting Will. Physically,
Berm can line him up wherever he wants, okay?
Physically, athletically, there is no one on this game who should be ranked ahead of him as far as Ohio State goes from an athletic. Like if there was just an athletic rating, he would be right up near the top. But lack of experience, the position switch, playing linebacker for the first time, he's going to be I think he's going to be rated higher than Cody Simon based on just the sheer height, weight, all that stuff, speed. So I'm going to go 83 on Sonny Styles.
I'll go 84.
I think all the things you mentioned, Berm, are true. And also with actual game reps, will bump him up even higher on the awareness ranking, even though it is a new position. Like that'll be tougher for him to move to linebacker in real life than it will be in a video game where he will be an 88.
Ooh,
oh wow,
big number. That makes sense though. I mean, he does have game reps that they can count as experience. So again, we don't know their algorithms, but I imagine that it's something to do with it. Like how much did they play and he played a lot of snaps. That leaves Davison Igbinosun, Jordan Hancock, and Lathan Ransom to give scores for.
I think Davison Igbinosun will be an 87.
Same. 87 was the number in my head.
We'll go. I guess I won't give all three. You guys can give your Davisons.
I think he's going to be an 88. There's a lot of draft buzz around him, which I think will feed into it. Plus 2 years experience playing corner already, including, and this is important, 1 year of experience in the SEC.
Jordan Hancock. The fact that Jordan Hancock is not presumably not a 90 or above, to me, might be the biggest affront on that early list we saw, because he's the best slot cornerback in the country, in my opinion. So I'm going to go 89 for Jordan Hancock as well.
Yeah, I kind of feel like he should be, but I don't know if I don't know who they will be. I feel like none of the people know how good Jordan Hancock is. Like, clearly, none of the people know how good Jordan Hancock is. I'll say that he is an 86.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I just felt like the Christian Bale. Ooh. That did not, I wasn't expecting that. 86. I'm going to 89 there.
I don't agree with it. I'm not saying what I think he should be. I just think what he will be.
I think they were saving the grand reveal for the highest rated player in the game. It was just a mislead on Wednesday. They wanted to throw out Will Johnson to get Berm upset. And the best player in America is Jordan Hancock. And he's going to be a 99.
Wow. Huh.
I like it.
What do you think about that?
I think that's wrong.
He's going to be an 88. He should be a 90. I feel quite strongly about Jordan Hancock, as everyone who watches the podcast daily knows. So he's not going to be a 99, but he is. Caleb Downs is obviously critical for Ohio State's defense. He's the best player, maybe the best defensive player in America, but Jordan Hancock is of critical importance for Ohio State winning a national championship.
100%. And Lathan Ransom, 88.
I also think 88.
I think he will be an 86.
Okay. We've done it. We don't need to worry about special teams. We don't.
Have you guys also you don't play video games, right? That's not part of your life anymore, is it?
I had to retire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's hoping one of us brings our PS5 to Big Ten Media Days, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, we can do that. I picked up, I got my PS5 over the weekend and I purchased the game on Wednesday. So I'm ready to roll for, I guess the early release is Monday, right, Bro?
The early release is Monday, yes, which I'm very excited for. Excited to get that. Also, remember, America, if you're out and about today, Thursday, it's free Slurpee Day at 7-Eleven. You're welcome.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Does that work at Speedway too?
Unless they don't do that anymore, in which case, tell them I'm sorry, but please pay for your Slurpee.
A free tip that's worth its weight in the price, which is nothing. But we'll see. I know Berm's going to try it out first thing in the morning, and then he might try and drink those Slurpees all day long, because what's better than a free big gulp?
What flavor are you going with?
I mean, you never know what they have. The best flavored Slurpee, however, is just the old pina colada ones. Those are the best ones. You mix that with a blue raspberry or something. Ooh, now you're talking.
Put a little rum in there. Good to go.
Hey, buddy. This I was a kid. This is my youth. Walk across the street to the old 7-Eleven across the street. Used to go.
You told us what you were doing when you were 12 years old. Why are we?
Well, there's a lot of things that could go a lot of different directions.
But
I was still walking to 7-Eleven, no matter which of those directions we went. 7-Eleven was one of them.
Okay.
One of my weirdest memories growing up, I went across the street to. There was literally a 7-Eleven directly across the street from my house, and this was back in the day when they still sold soda in glass bottles, because I'm old. And I went across the street to buy a Dr. Pepper for my brother Bobby. It was on Thanksgiving. I remember this like it was yesterday. And it was raining, and I was running back across the street, and I slipped and broke his bottle of Dr. Pepper in the middle of our street, which was not a slow street. It was a fairly busy street. I lost 11 cats to that street when I was young, just getting run over left and right. We lost a lot of cats to those mean streets of Toledo. And then 1 bottle of Dr. Pepper.
Folks, you would think today was Freaky Friday, but I promise you it was not. So you
This
can
is what
only
happens
imagine
when you guys don't talk to me very much on the show.
what it'll be like when we get
start
together and open the mailbag with all 3 of us for the first time in months. We're going to do that. So text us on subtext 614-662-4509. Get a 14-day free trial if you're not already on there, but we'll take all your mailbag questions. We'll send out a reminder for that later on today, which is Thursday. You know that already because you're listening to the podcast daily. That's Bill Landis and Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you tomorrow.